so I can tell. Hey, everybody. Say we're going to do that thing that I do out here sometimes. We're going to see what the limitation is for today, and then we're going to put some cards, the affirmators tarot, to get us step-by-step sort of process. So I plan on pulling 3 cards, step 1, step 2, step 3, instead of doing the usual pull around whatever the card was today. So I just finished submitting an application, and I'm feeling real good, honestly, not gonna lie. And then I have another little virtual thing to attend before I submit that one in an hour. So this one will not be as lengthy as some of the others may be. Or hopefully not going to be as lengthy. But, well, it can't be because I'm not missing this. Because it's time to move. And I feel like I actually slept last night. Oh, I love it. I mean, it was still kind of broken, and I had a lot of interesting dreams. I saw someone else's ancestor in my dream last night. And I'm like, the one that I saw looked like the person, and like, they had the same last name, but it wasn't the person. I'm like, wait, you're who? And then she was like, oh, like, I'm this person's blah, blah, blah. Oh, snap. And so she showed me a picture that had all of us in it. And it was weird. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I had a past life with somebody that I know in real life. And like, there were a group of us. But I'm looking at this picture. See, I'm already trying to make this longer than it needs to be. Anyway, I'm looking at the picture, and then I turn it, and then I turn back, and it's a different picture. And every time I do it, and it's like, it wasn't digital. It was like a picture in a frame. I was like, oh, snap. And so, my mind was blown, because not only am I like, and it wasn't like a ghost or a spirit. It was someone like that, at least, I mean, I didn't touch her, but she seemed tangible enough to me. Or corporeal. She seemed corporeal enough to me. And then some other people came in. And one of my little brothers was there, and I was showing everybody the picture frame. I was like, oh my gosh, it changes every time you like turn away from it and then look back. But yeah, that was just interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't think I've ever like full on dreamed of someone else's ancestor before, where they come to me like, I am this person's ancestor. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I don't know why you're coming to me, because we don't even necessarily like talk like that. I ain't necessarily talk to her in a minute. She cool people, but I guess I could reach out to her and be like, hey, what's up? How's everything going? I mean, I guess if I had the dream, I probably should at the very least, right? So we'll see. All right, let's get into this. And yeah, that's fine. So I'm on this website applying, and it looked different today than it looked yesterday, because I followed a different series of steps to get to the same place. And for whatever reason, the way that it looked yesterday was difficult for me to read and to navigate. And I saw something when I was going through it on my phone at first, and they were like, we recommend using Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome. And I use Google Chrome, and I'm like, this mess looked worse than what it would look like on Internet Explorer. I don't know why y'all tell me to get on Google Chrome and it's looking like this. But then today was actually looking all right, and I got the rest of the information that I needed to submit it, and it's submitted. And I'm hopeful, very optimistic. It feels good. It feels right. And I haven't felt that in a while. I haven't felt like I've gotten quite a few opportunities, and none of them have really felt like it. But this one feels like an amazing first step, and it's not a super lengthy commitment in case I decide to pivot a little bit later. And I might. I might not. I mean, ultimately, I think it'll be a really good sort of crash course that'll build out my portfolio. We'll just take those two, and will allow me to um, what, Patrick? Allow me to do what it is that I actually want to do, or take the route that I actually want to take, or that I foresee myself wanting to take. And it's a really good introduction, right, to the real world. It's an internship, so it's not a full-on, full-time job, which I love. Oh, I need to email somebody else. Okay, let's hurry up and get into this. I have like, what, 55 minutes until that starts. Girl, this might be a part 1, part 2 type night. Okay. So I need 3 cards for this, please. We'll turn it this way. Sun at the bottom of the deck. I keep seeing the sun in this deck. Cutting to the King of Pennies. Hey. When I see the King of Pentacles energy in this deck, it feels like the crown is super dusty. It feels like an energy of stability and abundance that has been sort of unclaimed for a while. Okay, there's the first one. The Hermit. Well, I wanted them face down, so let me put that up there. Can I get 3 cards face down, please, for this one? I see the High Priestess in this deck, and the Empress quite a bit as well. And Judgment. Judgment comes out like every time. And then there was the Empress when I said the Empress. And there's the Lovers. I guess we've been seeing them. Ooh, 2. We'll take it. Hermit is the first one. It's like we kind of sort of already know we there, right? That ain't a real clue. So 3 more for this side, and then we'll get into this. I also want to practice like not rambling as much, like getting right to the point. Justice and the Magician. Ooh, okay, there we go. I'll take it. Wait, no, I won't, because that's these. I'm so eager. Let me slow down. Okay, 3 more cards face down, please. Sure. What's this? So what almost came out is the 7 of Cups and the Ace of Wands. And I guess, and I got 3 cards. Hey. So the bottom of the deck is going to be the 7 of Cups. Well, I do want to see what was under that. Under that is the King of Swords and the Queen of Swords. Oh my gosh. The King and Queen of Swords. 7 of Cups, Ace of Wands. The correct option, the correct choice, it'll align with you on a very, very deep level. And it's like it'll excite some part of you, maybe. And it's like you'll know. And it's like instead of like a superficial desire, it'll be one that's rooted a lot more deeply. And it's also interesting because I've been seeing the King and the Queen of Wands coming out together. When I did the reading over here, the Mother of Wands came out, and then I clarified it with the Father of Wands. On my other channel yesterday, the King and the Queen of Wands came out. It was the Archangel. No, who was it? It was the Archangel of Glory with the Queen of Clubs, which is King of Wands, Queen of Wands energy. That came out together yesterday. And now the King and Queen of Swords are coming out together. So it's like, first, the interests align, the desires align, and then is the communication, right? And I don't know if, and that's interesting because I've been doing this message series on my other channel where I go through the court system and the SKT for each element, and I started with earth and then with water. And so I have fire and air left to do, but then we saw the king, or I've been seeing lately the king and queen of fire. So if it's in reverse, it's like first is the desire, then is the conversation, then is the vulnerability and the connection that leads to physical 3D, whatever, right? Let's get into this. So we have the death card in reverse because the whole deck is in reverse. Four of Cups in reverse at the bottom of the deck over here. We're going to read it as upright. So we got the four. Oh no. Who are you? Who is this? The Eight of Swords? You have the Eight of Swords with the Four of Cups at the bottom because the Eight of Swords was left on the table. Eight of Swords, Four of Cups speaks of missed opportunities preventing us from moving forward to claim new ones, right? That's like crying over spilled milk because we realize that, you know, while we didn't think we needed the milk in the past, turns out we got a big old bowl of cereal and it's that dry cereal that's hard to eat without milk. And then we had to eat that big old bowl of cereal and we really wanted that milk. But it's like, hey, you said you ain't want milk. Should have trusted the divine because the divine knew you was going to need milk. And then I guess, so it builds. There are lots of swords cards. What's that? The seven or the six? The Seven of Pentacles is under the King of Swords. I feel like it builds this kind of sort of, it rewires the brain to the point where intuition is a part of that conversation when we're trying to process through something analytically and logically, right? Because it's like, even if we don't have a logical explanation for it, we've lived enough of life to know that when spirit is telling us to do something, we should listen. And so it's for us to get into that energy of leaning not into our own understanding. And with the King and the Queen of Swords, it could be like the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, where you have the more action-oriented sign, but also the more Emily. Also, well, I'm actually going to read this because it might be suiting. So I sent these texts like months ago, maybe, and she just reacted to them because I was talking to her and she was like, text me that. So why did you move if you're just going to bring the old stuff anyway? And everything is a reflection of the sun are the two texts that she just reacted to, right? And so, like, when you're moving forward, why would you carry old baggage that's causing you to move in the first place? It also reminds me, I saw this documentary on ayahuasca and plant medicine a while ago. It was like last January 2019 when I was first getting into the spiritual thing. And the first thing that I came across when I was getting into spirituality was plant medicines. And I was like, okay, this ain't for me. But I watched the documentary anyway. And one of the people was like, you know, it's all these Westerners who come to places like this for these ceremonies to escape the world and civilization that they built, namely like the pressures of capitalism. But what like ends up happening is they bring all of that over here. Now, you know, the plant medicines are commercialized and sort of commodified to the point where it kind of sort of disrupts local traditions and systems, right? Because some of that stuff, like there are certain practitioners that believe that they shouldn't charge for it because it's of the earth and it's the earth's gift to man. But, you know, in come Western influence and competition and money and folks who are willing to pay big bucks. And then the folks who have the big bucks to pay for it, it basically takes it from the hands of the people who, I don't want to say it's for, but who it was given to, right? To the people who kept those traditions and kept the value in that, right? Who kept the value in, you know, not everything is about how much money you can make. All right, so back to this. We have the death card as the limitation, and with it being in reverse, that's just not transforming the things that need to be transformed. It almost feels like this space of maybe desiring transformation, but clinging to some factor or function of identity, or not being comfortable enough with going into the unknown. And then here's the Hermit. And the Hermit could speak of one going into their own comfort zone It's like you're taking your lantern further into the darkness when you're being asked to go into the light. It's like the sun is rising in your life, or the sun is trying to rise in your life or in your environment, and you're running from the sunrise. And so you take your little lantern so it's not completely dark, but you keep going into darker and darker places, and it's going to leave you feeling pretty cornered, probably. Like there's no other escape. But in the space of no escape, you get to where you're supposed to be going. Next, we have the Hierophant, which is interesting. So here we are running from the dawning of whatever in our lives, going deeper and deeper and deeper into ourselves, maybe for not a great reason, because this is death and limitation. But step 2 was finding the voice of spirit, right? So, or connecting to that part of you that is connected to the all. Step 3 is strength. All the majors. Oh my gosh. Step 3 is strength, which is facing the light. This is the sun. And everything is a reflection of the sun. Everything that we see in the night sky, besides the stars, it's the sun. The moon, it's the sun. The satellites, the sun. The planets in the sky, the sun. None of the planets in our solar system are stars. None of them shine their own light. They all reflect sunlight. And so everything in that sense, it's a reflection of the internal state, but kind of separated out into these different characters. And if we can look at them character by character, in some way, sometimes it makes it easier to understand the whole, and it makes it easier for us to understand and see ourselves, right? Because it's like, if you can't tell something real from something inauthentic, if you have like 15 exact copies of the same inauthentic thing, how would you ever discover what is real? And so it's like, even if all 15 of them, even if there's not a single genuine article among them, if they're different enough, you can pick out the differences between them and be like, okay, this one is wrong because of this, or misaligned, or it's distorted. This one is distorted because of this one is distorted because of that. And then it's like, sometimes if you can realize and recognize all of the distortions, then you can mentally piece together what the authentic, genuine article must be. And then there's this other process of starting to live that, right? So in the first go around, it's like running from stuff, surrendering, getting to the point where you have to surrender, and then having the strength or feeling the strength from the divine. And then after you get the strength from the divine, you take another loop where you go back and you look at everything in that internal landscape from a different point of view. Because it's like the first time you were running so quickly trying to escape the light or whatever change was coming that you didn't even like take notice of your surroundings. Now you're going back and you're bringing light to all of those situations, and you're sitting with it to heal it. You are deepening your connection with spirit to the point where you get your own strength. And it's like the relationship changes, like from a baby to a parent, from an adult to a parent, right? The first go around you're a baby, second go around you're an adult. And it's like spirit can inform your decisions always, and they're always there for counsel. But at a certain point, like, you should be solid enough within yourself to have a little bit more autonomy, I guess, right? Because it's not that you don't listen to spirit, but it's almost like you don't need to as much for like every single thing, because you already know, right? It's like, I don't have to, pray to be like, should I go and like severely injure somebody or should I not? Like, that's something that I know I shouldn't do, right? Or it's like, should I take this opportunity or should I take that opportunity? And again, it's the one that most aligns to who you are. And you discover this Ace of Wands, who you are, on like the second trip. Technically after the first one, but like you go from this hermit where that truth is a single like lantern, you give it this sort of regimen with the Hierophant that builds and builds and builds that fire until the point where it becomes the sun energy that backs strength. And then that's the one that you move forward with. And anything that doesn't, it's like any liquid that is too light will evaporate. Only certain cups will be able to stand the heat of this and not turn into ether or gas. And then the King and Queen of Swords, right? So over here, let's see what we have. We've got the Seeker of Cups, Page of Cups. So first we had the Death card, now we have the Page of Cups, Seeker of Cups. That's emotional fulfillment. That's seeking emotional fulfillment. The things that we seek out are going to change because there are certain things within ourselves that we don't need someone else or something else outside of ourselves to complete. Excuse me. And a compliment is always fine, but being completed from something external to you, you might manifest a tower moment where you got to learn to be a little bit more solid on your own and in yourself. First card we have coming out, more majors. It's the Tower. So the Tower is speaking of, we may do this double pass thing again, but step one is to release all of the things that are being lost right now. The Seeker, it's interesting because it reminds me of the energy of a child who has a favorite toy, but either the toy is broken, damaged, or there's something like it needs to be cleaned. And so it needs to be taken away for a second. And when it's taken away, if we don't understand why, we can sort of go into this mode of throwing a tantrum where we seek other things that look exactly like it, that feel exactly like it, and then we have the same situation all over again. Step two, another major, it's the Fool. The Fool is accepting that, hey, if this keeps happening, maybe it's happening for a reason. The Fool is also about accepting that within the self, though, because the Fool is the one who begins a journey, right? So this is after the Tower, you have to pick yourself up. And we're not yet going to the Star after the Tower. We're going back all the way to the Fool. So this is something that we're completely unlearning or relearning. And as we continue to learn from this, we'll kind of see how immature we actually were, spiritually, emotionally, whatever. And we're going to come into this understanding that's going to put us in a position to manifest things into our lives that we don't have to Tower moment recover from or lose. Step three is the Queen of Pentacles. Now, the Queen of Pentacles, it's this kangaroo energy, and she's holding this big old pentacle, right? Kangaroos are marsupials. It's an animal that carries its young in its pouch, or in a pouch. And not recently, but I've heard about the birth of a young Joey to when they go into the pouch. And I can't remember, but it sounded kind of weird. Because I don't think they're born in the pouch. It's like they're born and then they make their way to the pouch. But also there's this energy of, and again, it's kind of sort of this of needing to flow. Abundance is something that's constantly flowing. Money is something that exchanges hands. It's an energy that doesn't remain stagnant or stuck. It's given me the energy of the manna from when the Israelites were in the desert. I think it was the Israelites when they were in the desert and the manna fell from the heavens so that they could eat every day. But on Sundays, because Sunday was a Sabbath back in the day, and so they weren't supposed to do anything, and they were worried about, if we're not supposed to do anything on Sunday, how are we going to eat? And so they held on to the manna or the bread, and it would spoil overnight. And the point was like to not get into this energy of hoarding, right? It's like once the joy is big enough, you have to let it outside the pouch. And if you don't let it outside the pouch, Tower moment. But there's this energy over here of needing to face the self just like this. But there's this energy over here of needing to face the self. Now, with the Page of Cups, this can involve more people or people outside of us, or it could be easier for us to project the work that needs to be done on someone else. With the Death card, this is something that we can kind of sort of discover within ourselves. But anyway, with this Page of Cups, it's about trusting that, maybe sometimes you don't fully know what it is that you want, or that you don't know what it is that's good for you because you've been conditioned in whatever way a parent conditions a child. And it's not always correct, right? Sometimes parents have their own limitations, and so there's nothing else that they can do but kind of sort of project those limitations onto their kids because there's no other experience that they know sometimes. But this is about I feel like it goes back to that intuitive energy because with this Fool, the Fool is literally the start of the journey. Almost before the start of the journey, it's a zero. So we haven't even begun yet. And so you're going back to the drawing board. But this time you have the potential to end up in a space that makes you nurturing, compassionate, stable, and it puts you in a position to also provide for others. Right. What time is it? I think I'm just gonna end this here. 25:20. I do want to get one of these to end it off with. Yep. One of the Universe Has Your Back cards. And so I would say ultimately at the end of the day, if something is being taken from you, instead of trying to go out and replace it immediately, especially if it's something that you keep losing, try to think about why it's being taken. Think about, like, what is it about this thing that makes you think that it is so tied to your happiness? And again, like, we have the Seven of Cups here. So it's not that the thing isn't, but there's also this sort of phase. There's something that you need to do within you on both sides of this. It's something that you have to learn to give yourself that no one else can give you, because it's going to be important for you to know that this is something that you are capable of or something. So the card that came out is the moment I embrace my peace within and surrender the outcome is the moment that the universe can truly get to work. Yeah, probably can't see that. Maybe you can. And that's kind of sort of what this, especially this, is all about. And also there is this energy of like running from the dawn. I don't know why, but it's like to run from something like this, it leads to darkness. When you run from the light, it leads you further into darkness, right? And I guess the problem is that once you've been in the dark for so long, your eyes start to adjust to it. Your body starts to acclimate. That's what humans do. They're really, really good at adapting to various situations. And sometimes we adapt to situations that aren't great, or we adapt to situations that we're not supposed to be in. And then it creates these things that we have to have these tower moments, hermit moments to unlearn, because they manage to work themselves into part of our internal functioning, even if it's not part of our prime programming, right? But it's like it works so deeply into you. There's that Three of Wands. I keep seeing that unicorn with the rainbow. It works so deeply into you that sometimes it's hard to differentiate that from the things that are like actually you. So keep an open mind and continue to do that hard, uncomfortable work. And eventually you'll get to the place where you don't have to band-aid things as much anymore, because you allow them to heal. Thank you. Bottom of the deck is Death, which is interesting. Let it transform. Don't fight it. And just trust that you're going to be much happier in the end. Six of Swords and the Page of Pentacles. Exactly. I love this energy. It's navigating you to, not only is it financial stability. Is this the message I was looking for? No. Cardi B files for divorce. What? Okay. See, maybe Cardi, she had this whole thing too. She was like, you know what? Why am I even with you? I'm successful. I can do this. I can do that. I don't have to put up with this. I don't got to put up with you. I can do it all on my own. Cardi B is here for Cardi B. Cardi B made Cardi B Cardi B. Ain't nobody else made Cardi B Cardi B but Cardi B. I don't know. And I watched some, like, I never watched Love and Hip Hop, but I watched some, it's like Cardi B's best moments from season 6 or something yesterday, because it popped up and I was like, oh, why not? But she said some stuff that was kind of true, because it's like, there are these, she was talking about men specifically who utilize women basically to fulfill their carnal needs, or they'll be married to one but then go to the other or another when they want some kind of connection or whatever. And she was like, what did she say? She was like, there are these married dudes who be like, I got a wife at home. Yeah, that's time for me to start getting ready. She was like, I got a wife at home, but I'm looking for a little bit of something extra. And she was like, well, I got bills and I want them to be paid. And the dude was like, if you're a woman and you're doing this for money, then blah, 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 whatever. And she was like, you know what? Well, like, how come it's this dude with a wife at home that he's leaving unfulfilled, going after this other girl that he's also leaving unfulfilled? And so he gets to benefit in both ways, but it's up for the women to just like kind of sort of put up with it and to get nothing from it in return. It was like, at least this way I get something, right? I don't know why I'm talking about all that, because maybe that's one step, but then it's like, you can take it a step further and you can either attract into your experience someone who will build with you, or you can provide for yourself and let those who would come to you to use you go to somebody else. It's like, you know what? That's a game I'm not playing anymore. I know my worth now. I know what I want, and that's what I'm interested on building. All of this other stuff, it's behind me. And I'm not even sorry about it. Bottom of the deck is the death card again. I forgot, but it's the death card. It's about transformation, separation. And sometimes you need a little bit of separation to allow the space into, because the indecision card came out as how to move forward. And I was like, sometimes that indecision is just us taking enough of a step back to analyze our situation to see if it actually makes sense. Because sometimes devil energy, and not even devil energy, just a pre-programmed mind, it's like it'll shortcut and short circuit a lot of decision making processes. And it's like, well, why do I keep doing this when I know it doesn't benefit me? And it's because of the pattern that you've established. Humans are also creatures of habit, and that's the habit that you've fallen into. And so sometimes that moment of indecision is enough to really sit back and be like, you know what? They say that doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is insanity. And I wasn't catching the cycles before, but something about the way that I make decisions keeps me in these same spaces. So let me take a step back and let me actually think, right? I think there's also a need to step away from the time is money kind of sort of thing, because it puts a lot of pressure. There's a lot of societal pressures to look like somebody else, to have what somebody else has or whatever. But it's like now more than ever, a lot of us have had the time to think about where we actually want to be. Some of us have, a lot of us also, more than some, have also encountered difficulties outside. And I don't know, I had a moment when it was like, if I'm going to have to fight either way in life, I'd rather fight for something that I actually want. And there were lots of default programs that I used to run, and I had to go through a time of breaking them. And sometimes it's like you really do sit in a space of not fully knowing what to do, because you're like, I can't do the thing that I always do because I know that that's going to lead me down a path that I don't want to be on, but I haven't yet established this new pattern, this new paradigm, this new way of being. So I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do right now? Spirit is always there to guide you and to assist you. Sometimes you just really have to invest in deleting all those programs, defragmenting the hard drive, right? We used to do that all the time back in the day. We would defrag the hard drive. It was like, oh, computer's starting to run slow. Computer's starting to slow down. Time to defrag the hard drive. I don't think I have defragged my hard drive here recently. When I say recently, I mean within the past 3 years. But I think also there are some things that claim to automatically do it or something. But sometimes you got to go in and defrag. And when I'm not a huge computer dude, but when you defrag, it's all about, removing those old files, corrupted programs and stuff like that, just sort of sit in the memory and take up space. Right? And it's like, if this is corrupted, if I don't even use this anymore, why am I like still holding on to this? Like, what's the point? And it is a lengthy process. Defragging the hard drive, at least when I've done it, it takes a minute. It takes a while, and you can't really do anything else on the computer while that's happening. And so again, it's about realizing and recognizing that there may be a moment of pause, because that's kind of sort of what it takes. And like, you're establishing and building something new. So it's not going to be immediate all the time. And that's another reason why we kind of sort of have to sometimes get uncomfortable with not knowing. We have to get uncomfortable with stillness, and we have to get uncomfortable with stillness. Is that what I said? We have to get comfortable with not knowing. We have to get comfortable with stillness, and we have to get comfortable with silence. Because in those moments of stillness and silence, that's kind of sort of where we're open to receive the things that we wouldn't have listened to before. Because it's almost like, as you go through life, you have these multiple channels. And the more you decide to align in this way or that way, you're turning those channels up, but you're turning all the other channels down. And so in a time of unmuting, we have to turn down the things that we usually do to begin to listen for the things that we haven't before. And the more we listen to and the more we follow those, the more that turns up to the point where the dynamic completely shifts, right? So instead of 2 and 4 being turned up on max, with 1, 3, and 5 being turned down, we're learning to, stand still. First, we turn up 3 and we turn down 2. And then we turn up 5 and we turn up 2, but we turn down 4. And it's this whole system until we get 1, 3, and 5 in harmony with 2 and 4, to the point where we have a balance that we can move forward with chariot energy between all of the channels, instead of, prioritizing one. Because it's like the left horse goes left and the right horse goes right. And so if you have either on 100%, you're either going to circle to the left or you're going to circle to the right. You need both left and right in balance to move forward. And then if you got to turn, you turn down the right, you turn up the left, you make that turn, and then you turn up the right again so you can go straight, right? It's all about balance and equilibrium, and that's something that will benefit us greatly. But again, sometimes you got to stand still, and you got to be willing to relearn how to walk and talk and navigate through the world and through life. So that's all I got. I hope you have a good whatever whenever y'all see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make the good better and the better great. I'll catch y'all probably tomorrow, honestly, but maybe not.